Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar organized by the FTTH Council Europe. My name is Vincent Garnier. I'm the Director General of the Council and I will be moderating this session. And this webinar is organized by our member EXFO together with another member of the Council, CityFibre, and is titled Accelerating Quality and Efficiency in FTTH Deployment and Customer Activations. So for those who are not familiar with the Council, we are an industry association, a bit more than 20 years old. Our mission is the promotion of full fiber network as the most sustainable and future-proof access network technology, and fiber as an enabler of digital innovation across Europe. We organize online events like this one, also in-person conferences, as you can see on the picture. And our committee are developing content and research on every angle concerning fiber networks. So with that, I will share a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is actually part of the webinar series we're organizing on a monthly basis. It aimed at producing and sharing insight and content to our audience. And we are very happy to welcome probably up to 400 registrants for this webinar. So thanks for being with us, and I hope you'll enjoy the insights brought by our panelists. We are recording the session, and Dave, you can move to the next slide. We are recording the session, so we will be sharing the content of the webinar by email to those of you who have been attending today, but also those who have registered and have not been able to join us in person. And you will be also invited to our event and put in our distribution list and receive all the information we can share with our extended audience. Now, about the content of this webinar, the FTTH Council, and that's on the next slide, the FTTH Council aims, as we said in the introduction, to promote FTTH adoption and maximize the benefit that fiber brings to the society. And to do that in a very good way, operational excellence is absolutely key. So in that session, you will see how automation and connected instruments streamline test workflow and boost technician efficiency. It's all about speed of activation, doing things right in the first time. Ultimately, it brings quality of service and productivity to the operation. But both Christopher and Dave will talk about it with much more expertise. So I will introduce our speaker. Chris Kelly is passive engineer lead at CityFibre, a wholesale operator in the UK. And Dave Watts is EMEA sales director at EXFO, the sponsor of this session. So I think we start with you, Dave. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Vincent. Appreciate that. Yeah, so I'll start the session and then hand over to Chris thereafter. So I really want to look at four main points within my piece. I'll start off talking about some of the challenges that we see our customers and operators face with a legacy testing strategy. Talk a little bit about what we as EXFO see as the four steps of a life cycle from an FTTH technology perspective, and then look at the four steps in which we think we can help our customers by bringing automation and efficiencies into that deployment and operation of an FTTH network. I'll then quickly have a look at some of the benefits that our customers have seen, and then, as I say, hand over to Chris, who can talk in more detail about their journey around test automation at CityFibre. So without further ado, let's have a look at some of the challenges that we commonly see with our customers through a deployment of an FTTH lifecycle. So I think the first one, which is very relevant at the moment, is a lot of the builds have been made, and it's now about trying to activate as many customers as quickly as possible. But what we're seeing is that and a lot of our customers are seeing higher activation failure rates than they'd like, which obviously results in repeat visits, which doesn't give the customer the best experience, reduces the time to revenue, and overall creates more expense and delay in the deployment and activation. So we see up to 30%, depending from customer and their process perspective, but we can see high rates there. Secondly, traditional methods of testing require a lot of manual intervention, a lot of manual capturing of data, leading the engineer to make his own setups on instruments, for example. All of these manual interventions can potentially lead to missing or inaccurate data, and certainly makes the whole process take a lot longer than it could be if it could be automated. So that's one key challenge for our customers. If we move to the right, lack of visibility is definitely an issue. If you're not automated, if you're not connected to your engineers and their test instruments, it's hard to track how far your build and your activations are actually taking place. So it provides another clean data point potentially to get hold of access in real time. On the fourth vertical here is talking to workforce turnover and training. Training has been an issue for many years. Operators are looking to bring engineers and contractors looking to bring engineers into the business as quickly as possible. Don't have the traditional background that engineers may have had in the past on optical networks, and the scale of which it means that you need to bring new people on fast. Often there's a high turnover. So anything you can do around automation obviously helps address some of that challenge. Network degradation between build and activation it can be a problem as well for our customers. What we see is you can go and build up to the DP, to the cabinet, to the last point before you do that last drop, but the time between there and the activation, the customer and then subsequent customer can be quite significant. And within that time, a number of things can happen to the network. Engineers can, from your own workforce, from contractor workforce, or even other operators, depending if you're sharing elements of the network, can get their hands into the network and create issues. So even if you did build it perfectly on day one, there's often the state of the network can change when you go in and activate or try to activate a customer. And the last one around here is long time to repair. And the biggest influencing factor here is if you've built the network and you haven't been able to tie data points and data results to inventory, to the network and the topology of the network, you don't actually know what circuits are connected to which ports with crossovers, and the state of the network can be very different to the one that was planned to the one that was built. And that, when you get into the operational phase, can mean that time to repair can take much longer because you're not giving the engineers the accurate information when you dispatch them to go and find the problem. So those are some of the problems and challenges we see commonly with our customers. Now I just want to, before I dive into the steps to automation, just talk a little bit about the life cycle of FTTH and the phases that we see. Obviously the first phase is the plan and build phase. So this the start, and obviously the amount of data that you can collect at this point can be very valuable. Making sure you get a good solid set of data records from the start is helpful, but collecting data throughout any phase can be helpful and update your records. But obviously recommend that the more you can do at the build phase, the better. You then move on to the activation, as we've said, and really here you're looking to have a seamless process for your customers. You turn up when you say you turn up, and quickly get them onto your new service. And then you move into an operation and maintenance phase, so that you've got customers connected, you're now maintaining that network, responding to any faults that might be occurring in that network. And here you want to be able to have as much visibility of any changes or any degradations on the network as time evolves. So your testing really moves on to troubleshooting and monitoring of that network. Lastly, the fourth phase is once we're starting to see our customers go through already. Customers that initially deployed GPON are now looking at XGS-PON as an option, and there'll be more technologies coming down the line. We're already seeing talk of 25 gig, 50 gig, even 100 gig. Although I think that large-scale deployments are a little way off for those technologies, but there's certainly upgrade paths that are coming. And these networks are resilient if they're built in the right way, and will be here for tens of years moving forward. So again, using that data to make sure you can seamlessly upgrade and take advantage of the new technologies as they arrive is certainly adds value. So let's move on and talk a little bit about how a testing strategy and the automation of that can build efficiencies and quality into the network. And as I mentioned earlier, we really talk about 4 steps on that journey. The first one really about bringing automation into the network test equipment themselves. And I'll go through each of these steps in a little more detail with one slide in a moment. So I'll talk a little bit more about how you can do that on the next slide. Then once you've built automation into the instruments themselves, how can you do task automation? How can you automate the sending of jobs, retrieving of results? How can you use a cloud solution to start bringing automation at level 2? Then as you move up, you can look into process automation, where you're taking this data, bringing it back into other areas of the company, data lakes, other data sources. It could be an inventory system, as we highlight here on the slide. How can you bring that data together and give even more value to the data that you captured? And then last but not least, step 4, when you actually start to monitor the network. So here you could put testing technology like an OTDR as an example, deployed into the network, continually monitoring the state of that network. So those are the 4 stages. Let's talk a little bit more about automation of the equipment itself. And I would like to actually run a quick poll at this point as well, and ask you a question around, from your perspective as an audience, which do you consider the greatest surface impacting failure modes in an FTTH networks? And
I think the poll is currently shared, and people are starting to, if you don't mind me taking the lead, starting to answer. The options to your question were bad splice, macro band, wrong port connected at OLT, sorry, and dirty or damaged connector. And I can see that we already have quite a few participants voting, maybe 30% of them. Can I also take that opportunity to remind everyone that you can ask questions to our panelists using the question box in the functionality in the control panel you must have on your screen. So you type the question. We have anticipated some time at the end of the session to take these questions. So please do not hesitate to react, comment, ask questions. We'll do our best to address them at the end of the session. I can see that we now have 45% of the participants having voted. Maybe let's give them another 20 seconds, but I think we start to see a stable hierarchy between the different responses, and it's fairly balanced actually. Okay, in the interest of time, let me end the poll and share the result. And do you see the result? I'm not sure. I don't have the return on my screen. Okay, the result I have, I'm not sure. I think you see the result. What I see is that bad splice get 22% of the vote. Wrong port connected 25%, but dirty or damaged connector is at 44%, Dave. So the higher score is on dirty and damaged connector. I don't know if it corresponds to what you expected.
Yeah, that's really interesting feedback. Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, and you know, of course, the real answer is it does depend a little bit in terms of how the network's been built. But absolutely, I mean, all of these are modes that we see failures in. Bad splices, I'd say, is starting to come down. I think splicing technology and automation is helping drive that down, but certainly we still see some of that. Macro bends are probably a little bit less, but we do still see fibers trapped in the chambers and the trays, which can cause obviously impact to the service. Wrong port is quite a common one, and it's hard to find unless you at the time of activation do a quick PON ID check to validate you are on the port that you're expecting. But I would agree actually with the poll. Our experience does show, and then this actually goes for any optical network, that dirty or damaged connectors are the biggest source of failure on any network. Now, obviously, the amount of connectors you have can vary in a PON network. Most have gone to a connector version. You certainly have connectors at the home and likely back at the drop point as a minimum as well, and obviously in exchange. So yeah, that's very interesting. And what we actually see, it can even raise up to 80% of faults are actually linked to dirty and damaged connectors.
Quite virulent. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You can regain control of the deck, Dave. And just another reminder: please do ask questions. We will address them at the end. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so I mean, to sort of I guess build on that comment. You know, one area. So a lot of these solutions bring automation in, but you know, one that we see for damaged and dirty connectors, one actually Chris will probably talk about later, is inspection, and that's one way with inspection with a cleaning regime can get rid of a lot of those faults. Traditionally, they've been quite expensive and time consuming and not automated. But you know, one of the ways we've been able to work with Chris and his team is to release a solution that really automates that whole process and builds that intelligence in the tester, as opposed to relying on engineers to work out whether that is a clean or damaged connector. Okay, very good. So that's the first level. Second level talks about task automation and how you can use the cloud to do that. So this slide really talks about the fact that you could create your job with a project manager, deploy that to the cloud, allow the instrument to collect that from the cloud from the technician in the field, get that job assigned down to the instrument itself, call out the tasks that you want to perform on that particular job, OTDR, optical loss, fibre inspection, any generic tasks, automatically send those results back for validation. You can use solutions like Fast Reporter 2 to validate those results and make sure they're really meeting the standards you're expecting, and then accept that work, automatically update the project manager, update the technician, and you've got a really good way to validate your QA. Now, of course, once you've got the data in the cloud, you can update other stakeholders within the system as well, and let them know the progress. Now that works very seamlessly if you're an operator, but even if you're a contractor working for an operator, you can have certain elements of the cloud locked in for that particular customer, so you can work those jobs, assign those jobs within one particular contractor itself, and another contractor having another space that are segregated. So that's how we sort of approach that task automation piece, step 2. Step 3 is really quite a straightforward one in terms of what you're looking to achieve, but it needs to make sure that the architecture of the system is in place in the right way to leverage the benefit. So this is really about, once you've got the information in the cloud, and in this example we're using Exchange as that cloud solution, how do you take data from that? How do you feed data to that? And likewise, if you had we've got RFGM, remote fiber test and monitoring. So if you're monitoring your network or using centralized testing to help build your FTTH network and activate your network, how do you get data from there into your OSS, into your BSS, into your cloud or data lake? Well, the secret to this is having a rich form of native APIs that allow you to make the relevant calls bidirectionally between the two systems. And that's really key to get the next level of automation. I know Chris will talk a little bit about how that's working at CityFibre. So the The fourth final phase around this is as I touched on. Well, if you want to monitor your network while it's live, while it's up and running, you can benefit from a range of different use cases using remote fiber test and monitoring. So you can use it at the build phase to check and use an app on the phone to run your tests, call your tests in the exchange, validate at each stage of the build, each stage of the activation, that you're getting the results and the continuity that you're expecting. And then once you're going into the operation and maintenance mode, you can be testing, doing a heartbeat of the quality of your network. Before you send someone for activation, check that you still got that good build quality to your drop point. So when you do that last final drop to the customer, you know you've got a good build quality all the way up there to that point. And then lastly, you can start to trend, look for degradations in the network, be proactive around your operations and repair of those. And if indeed you do get a fault, use the system to do an on-demand test to pinpoint where the problem is and send an engineer with the right skill set, with the right equipment to fix it, and not just sending them blindly into the network to try and find a fault. You can know exactly where the fault is, at what layer, and whereabouts too. So that's the sort of last stage of that automation. One other use case that I'll just touch on before I come on to the benefits our customers have seen is a closed loop automation, and here really trying to tie in the inventory management system, the planning phase of the network to the actual build phase, and validating that always stays up to date throughout the piece. And this is all about taking data from the IMS, synchronizing it into the test ecosystem, using the test capability to validate the inventory that you've planned is being delivered in the way you're expecting, and the results and the quality of that build aligns. Then you know that your as planned is as built, and you can continue to update your IMS with the relevant data through the life cycle. So that's a really good example of where taking data from another source, in this case the inventory database, and correlating the information gives you added value with the test data. So the last slide from my side is just really about some of the benefits. So we've seen customers take this type of approach and seen a huge reduction in the time it takes to assign tasks, get engineers working on the jobs that they want, up to 97% of saving of time. We have large operators reducing the truck rolls on the activation piece. So knowing that they know exactly the state of the network before they deploy, and then having a solid deployment test strategy at site, that they've come from 30% down to less than 10%. Then I've got two there that Chris will talk about. They've seen a good reduction from the very early days where they saw higher activation rates to where they are now, where they're right down in single-digit activation mode. So they're really accelerating the quality of their activations, and also the whole process has been streamlined from what would have been end-to-end 2 to 4 weeks down to 2 or 4 days. So that's the sort of update and some of the benefits, but I think it's be really valuable now to hand over to Chris to talk a little bit more about the journey that CityFibre have been going through. So Chris, the floor is yours.
Yep, thanks Dave. If you just want to move to the next slide, I'll briefly do a description about myself and where I've come from in terms of the industry. I'll do a little bit of background knowledge check about CityFibre and where we've started and where we are today, and then we'll go into exchange and understand exactly how we've used the test data that we've got today to improve our processes and improve our right first time. So as it says on the screen, I'm the passive engineering lead at CityFibre. I've got just over 10 years experience within the telecoms industry. My speciality is more in the fibre and the optical testing side of things, and for the last 5 years I've been involved in the engineering team at CityFibre to help develop that. Just on the next slide please Dave. So just a little bit about CityFibre itself. So for those that don't know on the call, CityFibre was founded in 2011, and the three main goals for CityFibre back then was to build, to improve, and to enable. So there was a gap market where Openreach and Virgin Media was seen across the UK, and there was a much needed change for that. So CityFibre came in as the sort of the third vendor for that, and we've been doing and building a purpose-built network for the data age. So one that's only fibre, so there's no copper involved in our network, and it enables our partners to provide connections so quick and reliable that they can be taken for granted. Our work is upgrading the entire communities across the country, giving people a better foundation for their digital lives, enabling businesses to innovate and helping to strengthen the UK. Next slide for me, please. Just a quick high-level network design overview. We operate on a passive optical network of a 1:32 split ratio. We've upgraded our technology from GPON to XGS-PON. We have now XGS-PON services fully available across our network stream. We will typically serve from a fibre exchange, which serves 50,000 homes. In some instances where we can't site a new fibre exchange, we will deploy a fibre active cabinet, and typically they serve up to 5,000 to 7,500 homes where required. In terms of our testing regime, we test full end-to-end network and everything in between. So we have a full scope of test results that we can review and provide to our stakeholders. Next slide, please. So today we operate the UK's largest independent wholesale only fibre network. Like I say, it's a brand new network within the UK. It's an intelligent network powered by the state-of-the-art fibre exchanges. And like I say, we deploy XGS-PON technology and our own 800 gig DWM optical national backbone. One of the things that has been quite an achievement for us is we've partnered with all major independent ISPs. So as you can see some of this on the screen, Vodafone 3, Zen, TalkTalk, and Sky. So Sky's presence on our network will facilitate the next phase of our growth for the benefit of all our partners. This is because while we are crystal clear about what they want and expect from us, we are actually not going to be delivering anything exclusively for them, and everything that they do want is also needed by and will benefit every single one of our wholesale partners. So on the next slide, you will see an array of ISP partners that we use across the board. So All Points Fibre, Lightning Fibre, CommsWorld, pretty much every major ISP, independent ISP is on the CityFibre network, which is one of our greatest achievements. Next slide, please. As I said, we're all about delivering. So better connections for customers, new standards for the future, and infrastructure competition to last. So without the change of CityFibre having on the network or having on the UK market, I don't think the telecom market in the UK would be where it is today. And although ultimately it's about working together to make a substantial difference to those who serve, and this is why every connection counts. And this is just not just across the customer connection at the end, but it's across all sectors. So businesses, hospitals, police stations, every connection point we will try and serve. So just to bring on to the Exchange platform, next slide for me, please, Dave. So this will then talk about our testing timeline. So this will give you an idea of how we've achieved that from 2 to 4 weeks sort of test time down to 2 to 4 days. So from 2011 to 2018, we was testing the sort of traditional way. So this will be OTDR, but without a test management platform. So with this, without a test management platform back then, it led to a load of quality issues. There was more risk of human error and human intervention, changing thresholds, changing pass-fail statuses. And it didn't really give us much confidence, hence why the average test time was 2 to 4 weeks, because by the time that we've taken the results in and actually reviewed them, and in some cases it's taken longer than that, back then it was all about deliver, deliver, deliver. In 2019, we introduced test flow. So test flow was prior to Exchange, and this was initially a trial that we did in one of our main sites in Coventry, and it was quickly noticed that it was a nice way of streamlining the data storage, and we could analyze it and download it into Fast Report for free. We could share it with stakeholders. There was some limitations to that, unfortunately. So with that, we was only limited to 2 users per job. And when you've got a contractor deploying 50, 60 people to hand over a primary node, you needed the ability to add more people to that. In early 2022, we started the discussion with EXFO around Exchange, as test flow was coming to a close in 2024. So from the very get-go of Exchange, CityFibre have added a lot of development and a lot of change into Exchange to make it what it is today. So for any of those altnets on the call today who use Exchange, a lot of the stuff has been implemented through CityFibre. Last year, we did the full Exchange rollout to CityFibre, and this was across multiple cities, multiple work streams, and we done a 5-year deal with EXFO. So with that, we have development calls pretty much bi-weekly to look at how the system's running, what we can do to improve, and ultimately, it's only when you start rolling out a new system and getting the feedback from the contractors is when we can have that important conversations with EXFO to get the changes needed. One of the big things for us was there was no limit to the number of users, meaning we could have more accountability. So each contractor has got its own login details. We can assign each contractor to its own job, meaning we know exactly who's doing what, where, and when. The last sort of big benefit, which helped push us down to that 2 to 4 days, was the API links. So we have APIs linked in and out of EXFO Exchange, and with that, it's all about data ingestion and data exporting. With some of our systems that we use today, it makes our lives a lot easier to have that data and have the APIs linked in and linked out. Next slide, please. So how have we achieved this? Yeah, next slide for me, please, Dave.
So I think the next slide's questions, Chris.
Okay, there seems to be missing. Let me. You've only got 31 slides in there. Because let me. Am I okay just to take control of the screen?
Yeah, sure.
Apologies, as always, technical difficulties.
Maybe, Dave, are you able to retake control of the screen, Chris? I think you have the authorization, so you can go through the deck.
Yeah. So
just an opportunity to invite you to ask questions. We already have 4 of them. Please do not hesitate to share that. And I think now you're back on track.
Yeah. Cool. So one of the things that we've done is we've introduced a workflow process. So we've broken this down into 3 stages: data capture, which is number 1, data import, number 2, and data processing and export as number 3. So line 1 basically involves the CityFibre team, and what we do, obviously from the design phase, we push job packs into Exchange through validation of our own, and we use our own sort of test generators to create that. In line 2, again, CityFibre own people, we validate, we make sure everything is right before it goes into Exchange. And then as part of the assignee, it then goes into stage 3, which is where the jobs are assigned to our contractors. The contractors perform the job. We then get the data back into Exchange, we validate, and then we mark as release or good for service. One of the things that was missing prior to Exchange was in stage 3, the exportation of it. So we do a lot of validating internally with having the data in the form that it comes in now. we can basically review a set of primary nodes in our area on two or three to like an hour, whereas previously those 2 or 3 primary nodes that we was validating was taking 4 weeks. So we've seen a real benefit from the data being sort of hosted in a cloud-based system. One of the other things, and one of the innovations that we've done this year, is to enhance the customer connection side of things. So although testing was being conducted previously, again, there's a big focus on quality and making sure right first time is achieved. So we've introduced the FIP 200, which is what Dave was on about earlier. So this is a portable handheld fibre inspection probe. And as the poll suggested earlier, sort of majority of defects within a fibre network, or the sort of performance condition of the fibre network, is down to the cleanliness of the fibre. So this tool is now used by all of our installs partners to go out and validate every checkpoint of the network that they're installing into. So that'll be right from the serving cabinet or serving joint up into the ONT level of the customer's property. It's done on a 5-bar rating system, so the contractor out on site can clearly understand that red is a fail and green is a pass. We use the EX10. So the EX10 is a 10 gig speed test device, and as we're deploying XGS-PON services and the faster speeds that we're releasing on our network, we need to validate that the speeds are actually accurate. So we've gone down the route of using the EX10. With that, everything that we see that XFO base can be used and linked into the cloud system, meaning we can get the true reflection of the data, understand exactly where things are being performed and what condition the network is in. I've added a line in there from Tim Clark, who's the head of passive architecture and engineering from CityFibre, and this was part of the press release that we've done with XFO for the 5-year deal. And all it states is we have deployed XFO Exchange throughout our network because it remotely provides a fast, accurate picture of what's happening at any given location through cloud-based insight. So, and again, the use of the Exchange web cloud-based system has provided us a lot of sort of conditions where contractors can phone me up at any point and go, we've got a failed test result. I can ask them to send me the Exchange link. I can review it there and then, rather than waiting for a USB stick with corrupted files to be sent over to me, and then it's a long waiting game. Likewise, with the XFO support team, I can send jobs off onto them and they can validate it without the needing of waiting a long time for the results to come in. So the Exchange data today. So we use a system called Snowflake. Now, I'm not the most technical person in terms of data ingestion, so I'll be quite clear. Anything I do say might not be 100% correct, but we put an initial request into XFO to ensure that we could extract the data out of Exchange into our systems. So as you can see from there, we exchange the raw data into Snowflake. We then create the reports that we want to create, and then that is then exported out into our systems, and the reports get sent on to the relevant teams. Without that API input, the data is very hard to sort of justify what's going on out there, because the only thing you will see is a pass or a fail from initially looking at it. At least with this, we can deep dive to exactly what time something was done, what the geolocation, where something was done, link losses. We can do a full sweep of our network and see where issues are across the network. And in a time where the UK market is looking at mergers and acquisitions, data is ultimately the number one goal for people. Without the data, it's really hard to, I think personally, to justify the condition of your network. If there's data behind it, then it is a lot stronger sort of argument to warrant the quality of your network. And just for some facts and figures, from 2022, we've got over 1 million results within Exchange, just relating to build testing. This is without customer connection testing and without other work streams that we've now imported into Exchange. Again, what do we want to do tomorrow? So I've got on screen sort of a 5-level automation. I think it's a really good picture. So it's all about touch points. So level 0 is basically no automation. It's full manual work. And I'll say back in 2011 to 2018, that's where we was at. With the introduction of test flow, we moved to a level 1, level 2, where we've got a bit of automation in terms of creating job packs for the contractors. All they need to do is log in, press start, and send the results back to us. With Exchange now, we're more at like a level 3, level 4. So we do a lot of automation, not so much into Exchange, and I'll touch on that why we don't do that at the moment, but definitely from the contractor standpoint, back out into our systems is fully automated. Level 5 is obviously full automation. There's no touch points from anyone, and ultimately, in some aspects of sort of the telecoms job, that probably makes sense. From this standpoint, I think level 4 is probably where we will stop the line, just because we need some human intervention at some point, just to validate some of the results and make sure actually the sort of AI stuff that we've been looking into is doing its job properly. I touched on that we don't sort of automate the files from one system into Exchange today at the moment. The reason being for that is, again, we still need someone to validate the job packs are actually being produced correctly. The last thing that we would want is a system spits out a design, the system then automates that into Exchange, contractor starts, and then realise there's a load of missing test results, or the test results are not named correctly, because then obviously that just creates back-end office work for us. So at the moment, we're going through a stage of where we're still validating and ingesting that data into Exchange for our test generators, but at some point in the future, we may look at making that fully automated. And then I'll move on to just why all this matters to us. So, sorry, there we go, that's what I wanted. So there's some points on the screen. So we've got cost control, network reliability, competitive advantage, customer experience, quality assurance, and decision making. So on the first point about strengthened decision making for network quality. So CityFibre's commitment to data-driven insights ensures informed decision-making throughout network planning, deployment, and maintenance. We actively identify potential weaknesses, optimizing infrastructure, and enforcing strict quality standards. We secure a network that is resilient, high-performing, and built to last. In terms of cost control, with this system, obviously, we can continuously evaluate the network's performance and material efficiency, meaning we can maximize resource allocation while maintaining uncompromising quality. This approach reduces operational costs while ensuring long-term reliability, making every investment in our network a foundation for superior performance. One of the big ones is obviously customer experience. So high-quality fibre network is the foundation of really good customer experience by maintaining stringent quality controls, which Exchange allows us to do, optimizing network reliability and minimizing service downtime. CityFibre delivers ultra-fast, dependable connectivity that strengthens customers' trust and satisfaction, which obviously, going back to a few slides ago when we talk about ISPs, the fact that we've got all the major ISPs going on our network shows sort of the customer experience and the reliability that we've got through our test management platform. On the quality assurance piece, obviously quality is embedded at every stage of our network deployment, from supplier selection to installation and ongoing monitoring CityFibre. We ensure that all components meet or exceed industry standards. This is a rigorous approach which guarantees a future-proof, high-performing fibre network. And then in terms of competitive advantage, we continuously enhance our network's quality and scalability. CityFibre remains the forefront of full fibre connectivity. As I said earlier, we're the only fibre market that does the wholesale network within the UK. Our focus is best-in-class materials, precision engineering, and long-term performance, which ensures that we deliver a network that outperforms the competition and meets the demands of the digital future. As Dave was on about earlier, currently today, obviously, we're operating on XGS-PON, but tomorrow we're looking at 25 gig, 50 gig PON, and then whatever's next after that, which I'm not too sure about at the moment, but I'm sure we're not too far away from it. So with that, that leads me back onto the Q&A side of things, I believe. I think that was the next slide on yours anyway, Dave, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Vincent's got a view of the questions.
Yeah, I do have some question, and actually I'll start with one directly connected to your last comment, Chris. How will future PON technologies affect the testing lifecycle strategy? You said that you're looking forward to it, but any idea of how it will completely impact things?
So one of the things that we did from the very outset is we ensured that we was testing up and down the spectrum. So a lot of companies previously may have only tested at 2 wavelengths. We ensured that we covered all of the wavelengths that we needed to. So 1310, 1550, 1625, and 1650. Obviously, with the deployment of XGS-PON working on 1577 on the downstream, us testing at that higher wavelength has provided us that we can assure that our cable in the ground is meeting the expectation of the longer lifespan. Meaning any new technologies coming in, we've already got pretty much a 100% certainty that it's going to work because we've tested the fiber at the correct wavelengths.
Okay, I have another question from Simon. How does synchronization with the inventory system work? Specifically mapping inventory objects to measurement? Do you take cable spare and launch cable into account? Could you also tell us more about the challenges of integrating with a new OSS or inventory system? So many questions in one.
That's probably split between both me and you, Dave, I think. I mean, I can pick up the side of things. In terms of us, in terms of naming conventions, we set that ourselves. So we have a design come in, we use a test generator, which is created by ourselves, and we map the design to the test generator. Meaning when we upload the results or import the results into Exchange, the contractor will see the same naming conventions as the design shows. So we take that control out of the contractor, whereas previously the contractor was reliable for filling in the naming convention whilst they was doing the testing. This then just removes that touch point and makes that stage a little bit more automated.
Yeah, and I guess, Chris, I just sort of add from our perspective, that integrating into any other system obviously takes a little bit of work and thought, and it's just about sharing information. As Chris says, the way the terminology used, the amount of spaces you have connecting the two systems, making sure it all plugs together, means that everyone's got to work closely together. I would say to start with. We're actually, the examples we've done initially are with IQ Geo, and we've worked very closely with them around how we can take their inventory data, use that, and collaborate through that whole life cycle piece. So, there is an element of more detailed analysis that needs to take place to explain exactly how it's done, but I'd be happy to take that offline and go deeper on that. But for me, it's about we're working closely together between the 3 parties. The test data, which other party you need to integrate with, and then the back office, the OSS, BSS, and data lake of the customer as well.
Thank you. Michael is asking, and I think it refers to the part of the presentation that Chris made. Not sure if I heard you correctly. Does it just save a pass and fail, or can we retrieve the actual test result levels?
Yeah, so when I said that, I realized I may have said it a little bit wrong. Initially, from an everyday person looking at test results who doesn't really have much understanding, obviously there are pass-fail thresholds set against the testing criteria. So when you initially go into the platform, you will just see sort of the naming convention, then you'll see a pass or fail against those associated test types, whether that be fibre inspection, IOLM, tasks, so for example, pictures, comments. When you click on the pass or fail icon, you then deep dive into the actual raw data where you'll get your link loss. You'll get a graph of the trace that's been done, including launch and receive leads. You'll get all the pass-fail thresholds set within the test configuration. And obviously, once you download that data out and use a third-party system like Flash Reporter 3 or have your own system, you can do the reporting that you need to off the back of that. But yeah, it's not just a pass-fail threshold. It was more of just a throwaway comment, just to say, typically most people that go into Exchange don't have a great understanding of testing. So as they stated at the start, there's a sort of a lack of industry knowledge or training regarding sort of reviewing test results. You will just see a pass or fail, but yes, most definitely you can go into the data and you can see the full elements.
Okay, that one I think is for you, Dave, from Erwin. Is there a live connection between FMS and the infrastructure management system for locating the geographic fault location in case of fiber breaks?
Yeah, so I'd call that a GIS system, and absolutely we do connect and synchronize with GIS. We have some capability ourselves, but you're absolutely right. You want to be able to put faults on maps so that you can send engineers to the right place. So absolutely, yes, we have that level of integration.
Okay, and if you employ a test strategy where you have automated the location of the test data, do you see any other use case for this test data in the future? So sort of different extended scope for this technology.
Chris, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah. So we use the geolocation quite a lot, to be honest. One of the risks of deploying a test management platform and previous to that is you have to give a little bit of control to the contractor and a bit of trust into the contractor to make sure they're actually testing the right asset. With the geolocation, when it uploads into Exchange, you get that geolocation. So from our design standpoint, when we get a design pack in, there's a set coordinates associated to the planned asset. So then when we get the test data, we can actually see exactly where that asset has, one, been installed, or two, where the test is being completed. So then at the moment we've got a prototype which is looking at automation of validating the input and the output to make sure the geolocations are in the right location. And if they're not, we can flag that back to the contractor and we can say, well, we know this is the plan, this is the build. Yes, it's within 2 meters, that's fine. Or was there design change, or actually have you tested the wrong asset? So it allows us to question things which we previously couldn't question. And we had to go off a bit of trust. So at least with this, we can have a little bit more certainty around that.
Okay.
And I'd perhaps just add to that, Chris. I totally agree. We see lots of questions about geolocation. We're starting to build some of that capability straight into the instruments as well. So with the latest platform with Design FTP Lite as an always-on connectivity piece, so that you can just with every test that you do, you automatically get that level of data. And I think as more and more data comes together, I think we'll see our customers like CityFibre looking at other data sources and combining those data sources to bring intelligence out. A lot of the operators are building some of their own AI intelligence. You know, could you start using the data ourselves or them to validate whether any of those results are duplicates that have been made and filter those out? Can we start to take information from network element, ONTs, OLTs, combine that with the physical layer testing? Could that give more information about what's actually happening at the customer site? So I think, you know, we're very much at the start of a journey here, and as long as you can collect good quality data, then there's going to be a lot of AI and crunching of different data sources that are going to give more insights to business insights moving forward.
Excellent. I've got a quick one from Davor. Which power meter model do you use?
So we use two. So we use the built-in optical power meter broadband on the max testers and the FTB from EXFO. For our customer connection, we use the VRB OLP39X.
Okay. This one, I believe it will also be useful to talk about the life cycle of the network and how the test head can help not only to monitor the network, but also to anticipate its degradation. Any comment on this?
I totally agree with that. When you centralize your OTR capability, you can use it throughout, absolutely. So you can use it at the build phase. So each time you build a section out, particularly if you build from the exchange outwards, which most companies do. CityFibre sometimes build it in different stages, but certainly if you build out all the way from there, then just check it at each stage. Check before you go for activation. Then when you go to activation, you can use it as part of the activation test. It can give you a loss measurement as well. And then absolutely keep it a general heartbeat of testing going through the network, testing through your circuits, just to see whether there's any degradation happening over time, or where there's faults there. Make sure you can see those as quickly as possible. And of course, if you can start to spot degradation and understand where they become service affecting, where they're not, you can plan your operations to make sure that you start to do that work in a planned way and before it's customer affecting. So absolutely, we see our customers looking for that as well.
Okay, I think a very basic question from Andrew. Which fiber connector is being used on FTTH?
Typically, it's the LC APC connector, especially for us anyway. A lot of the subscriber end will be SC APC, and at the OLT end, it will be SC UPC. But everything in between that we use anyway is LC APC.
Okay. And maybe another one for you, Chris, from Ronan. When you say developing standards since 2011, are you talking internally or alignment with SDO like BBF, TMF, maybe both?
So when we talk about sort of setting standards, obviously CityFibre internally, we have our own standards that we adhere to, but it's more for our product standpoint and from our testing standpoint, we make sure that we comply with the IEC standards, the obviously British standards, the European standards. So a lot of the stuff is based off the sort of industry recommendation, and then anything from there that we've deemed as sort of not acceptable, we will change. So for a really good example of this is in our fibre inspection test configuration, we use the edition 2 of the IEC configuration. I think last year or the year before they released the edition 3, and actually the edition 3 was a little bit easier to get a pass on, and we made the decision internally as a company just to stick with the edition 2 to make sure that we are getting the full sort of pass of the cleanliness of the fibre, rather than taking sort of a smaller step down and allowing slightly ones that wouldn't pass before into the network.
We're really getting to the end of this session, and I just want, with everybody having back-to-back calls, I think it's important to finish on time. I would really like to thank both of you for this very insightful webinar. I would like to thank our audience because we got a lot of questions, and I think those who have not been addressed during the Q&A part will be taken offline by David, Chris. We will transmit all information. Just give me 10 seconds to remind you that the next FTTH conference is actually in the UK. We have many of our audience from the UK. We will be in London on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of April. CityFibre will be there. EXFO will be there. So we hope to welcome our industry for this flagship event of the FTTH Council. So with that, thanks again to Chris and Dave. I don't know if you want to say a few words of conclusion for our guest.
I guess go ahead, Chris.
I'm going to say, if you can take one thing away from today, is make sure everything is all about data. The more data you can get, good or bad, obviously good is better, but good or bad, the more data set that you have, the more you can do with it afterwards. And that's one of the things that we've learned over the years is definitely having more data definitely puts you in a better position.
Very good. I totally agree. What I would say is, if you're going to capture data, make sure you capture the right data, and then that gives you the right resource to trust and bring the automation forward. So yeah, thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the time. Thanks to the audience.
Thank you, and join us on our new event, and if possible, in person in London next year. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Okay.